Welcome to Prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear, where integrative oncology meets holistic healing. This podcast is your home for the latest in innovation, exploration, and elevation in all areas of integrative oncology, medicine, health, wellness, and beyond. Join me and a host of other innovators as we go from practicing to prescribing. Your daily dose of wellness begins now. Grapeseed extract and vitamin C, immunity on the offense. We have enough defense, enough reaction in the cancer arena, cancer world today. We need to really focus on being on the offense, not just in treatment, but also in prevention. And I think the easiest way for us to get on the offense is to actually innovate, expand our vision, elevate the practice of medicine, elevate through the application of integrative oncology. And you know me, I love integrative oncology. I love vitamin C. So there was an article that just dropped, a study. It was a mouse model. This is a much deeper dive in the podcast. I dropped a hot take on this in a social media reel because I think this is a very valuable article that shows how we can take animal models in vivo and quickly, I think, extrapolate that out into clinical application with a solid understanding of really some basic principles that I'll touch on here. So this was an immunomodulatory mechanism study. So it's not necessarily looking at the pro-oxidative effect. So everybody talks about high-dose IV vitamin C, which I love, and understand research suggests that somewhere starting between 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of dose. That's right, grams per kilogram. What the research here is showing is not that they're looking at the pro-oxidative. They're actually looking here at what's the modulation of the immune system by the combination of grapeseed extract and the L form or levo form ascorbic acid. Now, the L form of ascorbic acid is that which is available in nature, in our fruits, in our vegetables, and it happens to be the biologically active in our body. So here it's an application form. This was a combination therapy. We'll go into the deep dives of this study design and then the outcomes. It was looking at solid Ehrlich carcinoma in mouse model. Okay, what first is grape seed extract? Well, it is derived from whole grape seeds. So when we think about grapes, people equate that to wine. And I've talked about that on this podcast series with my good friend, Dr. Miranda Labonte, where we talked about the actual health benefits of wine. Because when people think wine, they think alcohol, but understand wine is wine that happens to contain alcohol, but it contains a ton of polyphenols. And grapeseed extract coming from grape seeds is predominantly composed of polyphenols. These are a category of compounds that are naturally present in fruits and vegetables, in herbs, spices, tea, dark chocolate, 80% or higher, and wine. Of course, red wine, more than white wine. Now, in the different environments of the body, they have different effects. Because this is one area where conventional oncology, amongst other places, really falls flat. I think, well, a patient has cancer. If you give an antioxidant like vitamin C, which it is, it's going to be antioxidative, and thus it's going to counter pro-oxidative therapies like radiation chemo. Yeah, not true. That's not what the evidence shows. That's not true. Because the different environments dictate the different effects of these polyphenols. And this would apply to curcumin as well, vitamin C, grapeseed extract, quercetin. So here in the cancer environment, which has compromised detoxification, typically reduced superoxide dismutase catalase, and even glutathione, then you increase oxidative stress, pro-oxidation with the combination here, grapeseed extract, vitamin C. Guess what? You destroy the cell. It becomes pro-oxidative. But in the non-cancer cell, non-cancer environment, it has fully capable detoxification enzyme capacity, and it's antioxidative. So you can have two different effects dictated by two different environments within the same individual by vitamin C and here grapeseed extract. And just exciting, they are also showing anti-cancer activity. Of course, vitamin C has been shown that with the high dose form to be pro-oxidative, but there's many other aspects, i.e. the oral form of vitamin C has been shown to modulate increased bifidobacterium within the gut microbiome. So we must understand that there's different effects depending on the delivery and the dosage and the frequency and the duration of treatment of these therapeutics. It's not just always one way and always thinking in a linear process. Cancer focuses on almost a quantum physics level. We need to start thinking that way. So this study, again, looking at the combination of grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid, was looking at tumor growth inhibition, immune modulation, immune response, and then oxidative stress parameters. Again, in vivo mice, solid Ehrlich carcinoma. Now, the reason why they're looking at this, because they said challenges we have in conventional cancer care is we have massive off-target toxicity. We have dose-limiting toxicity. I mean, you look at chemotherapy, I call it full dose to toxicity. We take you right to the brink of death and then say, well, let's pull it back just a little bit. Let's try to knock off the cancer before we knock you off. That's kind of the take. This constantly promotes resistance, and it's immunosuppressive. I mean, research has shown, for example, chemotherapy will shrink a primary tumor, but it suppresses the immune system, and that leads to the spread of the tumor. Now, the experimental design of this study, I think it was very nice, was in mice only. It was 14 days of administration. There were really 5 arms. There was the grapeseed extract arm of 200 milligrams per kilogram that was given orally. There was the L-ascorbic acid individually, 50 milligrams per kilogram, given via oral lavage. There was the combination of the grapeseed extract and the L-ascorbic acid. Then there was the positive control, which was doxorubicin. Then there was the negative control, that was no treatment at all. And then the assessment parameters, they looked at the tumor volume measurements. They actually measured the tumor. They looked at oxidative stress biomarkers, which we'll talk about in a second. They looked at immunohistochemistry measurements, and they looked at serum cytokine analysis. And we'll go through all of those. So the key findings were categorized into really a few categories here: tumor growth inhibition, oxidative stress modulation, histopathological alteration, cellular proliferation, and apoptosis, really 2 different hallmarks of cancer here: tumor infiltrating immune cells, and Th1, Th2 cytokine balance. Everything's about homeostasis. It's about balance. So let's first look at tumor growth inhibition. Key observation here was the grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid in combination reduced the tumor volume by 76.6%. It's drastic. Now, what is that and how does that compare to doxorubicin, called the red devil, by the way, chemotherapeutic? It was superior to it. See, the doxorubicin reduced the tumor volume by 68.8%, 76.6% compared to 68.8%. Enhanced tumor suppression. Now, oral grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid superior to the doxorubicin given orally. This suggests that the combination there in that mouse model was superior than the conventional cancer care treatment, doxorubicin. Now, we don't give doxorubicin orally, so obviously that doesn't translate over to humans, and we'll get more and deeper into that conflict, I think, from the evidence and how we translate that out to humans in a second. Second is oxidative stress modulation. Now, we must understand that in cancers, they have compromised detoxification to begin with. The process of high metabolic rate, rapid mitosis, that replicative immortality, it creates a lot of oxidative stress because of the energy involved. Now, a lot of the shifting of the energy metabolism from the oxidative phosphorylation to the glycolysis is an attempt to meet the high metabolic demand, but not overwhelm the cell because it has compromised detoxification enzyme capacity by increasing the oxidative stress too much. See, in the cancer cells, as I've already alluded to, there's a reduction in superoxide dismutase, catalase, and even glutathione. And these are detoxification enzymes. Really, they're balancing the reduction and oxidation balance within the body. So what this study found is, in combination, it had an impact in pro-oxidation and a further reduction in the detoxification capacity. I had a great question. I talked about this on the hot take, but a great question that came from social media said, I'm curious about the glutathione part. I listened to the reel he was talking about 4 or 5 times, trying to figure out why we're trying to decrease the level of glutathione and increase the level of nitric oxide. Great question. I take glutathione for toxicity of the liver post-surgery and post-procedure. We're talking about in the tumor, the cancer cell, and the tumor microenvironment. We're not talking about your healthy cells, your healthy environment. So taking glutathione post-surgery and post-procedure for your healthy cells, it absolutely will help your body heal better. It restores redox oxidation balance, it balances inflammation, and it will promote healing. Absolutely. But we're talking about in cancer environments within an individual. Here its mice. Again, they have compromised detoxification. So what was shown with the combination of the grapeseed extract and L-form ascorbic acid given together was there was a significant increase in oxidative damage to the tumor cell membranes. Again, tumor cell membranes. And this was found through a 60.8% increase in lipid peroxidation. They also found enhanced immune directed against the cancer anti-tumor cytotoxicity of the immune cells, and that was evident by an increase in nitric oxide of 29.4%. So again, we're talking about just in the tumor, and we're talking about how this increases oxidative stress within that tumor, within the capacity where it's compromised to handle that increased oxidation because of its mitotic metabolic activity. Now, further, it also found that it reduced the ability to balance that pro-oxidative effect by the grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid. It reduced the superoxide dismutase by 79.7%, further reducing the capacity to handle it. It reduced catalase by 64.9%, and it reduced glutathione by 69.3%. This is really setting the stage for the cancer to be triggered to die. Now, again, this is in cancer. In the immune cells, guess what? At the same time, research tells us, this study talked about it and showed that it's going to be antioxidative. It's going to be protective. It's going to be restorative to the healthy cells. But in the cancer cells, in the cancer environments, it's going to be pro-oxidative, destructive, and activating to the immune system to one that is anti-tumor rather than pro-tumor. So great question. We encourage everybody to reach out with questions. We'd be happy to answer those in any format. There were, again, different groups. There was the control group where they found basically many different malignant cell types, extensive angiogenesis, very limited necrosis, as you would expect to in a cancer that's thriving. Now, in the ascorbic acid treatment group alone, they found increased necrosis, which is good, and they found apoptosis, clusters of apoptosis. This is programmed cell death. All of this would be triggering and activating. Thus, they saw moderate inflammatory infiltrate, recruitment into the immune system. Again, we must get cold tumors hot, immune system into the tumor to activate. The grapeseed extract treatment group had widespread apoptosis, extensive necrosis. There was some development and remodeling of the tumor microenvironment matrix, and thus this was going to allow further immune infiltrate. And then in the combination of the grapeseed extract and the ascorbic acid, there was near complete necrosis. There was minimal viable tumor cells, which fits with near complete necrosis, and enhanced stromal remodeling, which is going to further increase immune infiltration. Again, looking at proliferation, apoptosis, again, separate, but they combine it together here. When you look at a lot of the genomic profiling that's done out there, and you see this in the liquid biopsies, et cetera, and even tissue biopsy, you're going to see Ki67, it's a proliferative index. And that's a marker of showing us how rapidly cells are dividing, proliferation index. And obviously, the higher the proliferation index, the poorer the prognosis. So in the combination of the grapeseed extract and L-form ascorbic acid, they found a reduction in the expression of Ki67 by 43.8%. So a reduction in proliferation. Now, how did that compare to doxorubicin, the red devil chemotherapeutic, which is pretty much a standard in a lot of cancer chemotherapeutics? Well, it was the doxorubicin lowered Ki67 by 33.8%. So 43.8% compared to 33.8%. Pretty profound. Now, interestingly enough, the individual treatments, grapeseed extract, reduced the Ki67 by 34.9%, and the L-form ascorbic acid reduced it by 33%. So you can see individually they still worked really well. That's the grapeseed extract and the L-form ascorbic acid, but in combination, they superseded the doxorubicin and really flew past it to achieve a reduction of 43.8% in the Ki67 proliferation index. Now, the capsase, this is a triggering of apoptosis, particularly capsase 3 they looked at. They found that in the combination, there was an increase in capsase 3, which triggers apoptosis, by 39.9%. This was 7.2% higher than doxorubicin. Now, grapeseed extract alone, the capsase 3 was increased by 33.6%, and in the ascorbic acid was increased by 29.3%. So you can see the combination of the grapeseed extract and the L-form ascorbic acid provided superior inhibition and reduction of proliferation and triggering of apoptosis, programmed cell death. Now, turning cold tumors hot is controlled by the immune system getting in. Tumor immune infiltration. And cancer really works hard to keep it out. If you want to know what cancer sees as its greatest threat, look at what it targets. It targets the immune system in a variety of ways. And I've talked recently about it actually goes to immune cells like CD8 T cells and natural killer cells and steals their mitochondria. Well, here, they're actually, what's going to happen is the immune system it's trying to keep, the cancer is trying to keep the immune system out. It's trying to keep it out. If the immune system can't get in there, it can't attack it, it can't target it, it can't train against it, it can't learn to target it, it can't even see it. And again, as I mentioned, cancer is steal from it. So cancer is a lot of things: adulterous, transformative, thief, destructive. It's purely evil in every way. So tumor infiltrating immune cells, looking at the combination grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid, there was an 18.5% increase in CD4 helper T cells. Now, that combination was compared to a 15.8% with grapeseed extract alone. And in fact, when they looked at just grapeseed extract and the L-ascorbic acid, the grapeseed extract typically performed better than the ascorbic acid alone. By the way, ascorbic acid is vitamin C, but it's when they came together in combination in the oral lavage form, they were synergistic. Now, beyond the CD4 cells, which are helper T cells, these are directing immune traffic, there was a 34.9% increase in cytotoxic CD8 T cells. Now, this combination was comparatively to 11.8% increase in grapeseed extract and 10.9% in the vitamin C alone. So we have an increased immune system infiltration that's anti-tumor, destructive against tumor, but we must have a reduction in the immune suppressive. And there was a 26.2% reduction in T regulating cells that suppress the immune system within the immune environment, allowing the cancer to evade the immune system. This was decreased substantially in that combination. So what we have is we have an increased immune infiltration, increased immune surveillance, and then we have a reduction in immunosuppression. And so what all that's going to do is shift a pro-tumor immune environment to an anti-tumor immune environment with the grapeseed extract and the ascorbic acid in this mouse model via oral lavage. And finally, looking at the Th1, Th2 cytokine balance, here we're looking at the immune signals. And today in the cancer arena, everybody focuses on the immune cells, and rightly so. Dendritic cells, CD8 T cells, natural killer cells, myeloid-derived suppressing cells, which are immunosuppressive. And this is all important. But we have to understand these are just your soldiers. These are your Army, your Marines, your Air Force. There has to be a plan. There has to be signal. There has to be communication that orchestrates them working together to target and eliminate the enemy. Obviously, here cancer is an enemy in that comparative. But if you have all those cells, if you have say you have 5 million Marines, 2 million Army troops, and yet no plan, no communication, no signaling, guess what happens? Your enemy wins. The communication, I would say, is as important or more important than the immune cells themselves. Because you could have a great strategy, a great communication, a lesser number of cells, and you win. Here, the immune system wins, the immune system targets a tumor and eliminates it. In fact, that's what research has actually shown. Research has actually shown it's not the number of cells that's important. It's actually that the immune cells communicate together, their spatial relationship, their triad formation, and this is what leads to immune activation, immune training, and anti-tumor immunity. But in this study, they were looking at the balance of Th1, which tends to be anti-tumor, and Th2, which is pro-tumor. And what they found is that in the combination grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid, there was a shift to the Th1 through an increase in interleukin 12 and interferon gamma. And there was a downregulation of the Th2 cytokine signaling, which is reduction in interleukin 4 and reduction in interleukin 10. And interleukin 10 is very immunosuppressive. So this is important because we have an increase and a shift towards Th1 being the promoting of an anti-tumor immune environment, and you have a downregulation of the Th2, which is the pro-tumor immune environment. So you're downregulating the pro-tumor immune environment and upregulating the anti-tumor immune environment. By the way, this Th1, Th2 rebalancing, it exceeded that of the doxorubicin. Always like to tell you about exciting things, exciting innovation, new insights being provided for by myself and the Williams Cancer Institute on a variety of fronts. Just dropped a new repurposed medication in oncology, repurposed drugs in oncology and beyond, reimagining old solutions for new challenges. You know, many people, whether that be on Dr. Google or pick your doctor's social media platform, are looking for ways to help augment their cancer treatment. And repurposed medications, and vitamin C for that matter, these are flagships of that movement. They are evidence-based. But in anything, that can be conventional oncology and that can be integrative or natural oncology, we can stray from the evidence. So what I wanted to do in this new online course, Module 1's dropped with 5 courses, you can find it at metabolicregion.com, was actually provide guidance of the use of repurposed medications, first a history, then mebendazole, ivermectin, fenbendazole, that's right, mebendazole versus fenbendazole. Understand by just simply talking about them, reviewing the evidence, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm pro this drug or pro that drug. It's simply, what does the evidence say? Where does the evidence lead? So I encourage you to go to metabolicregion.com, sign up for Module 1, Module 2 is in the works, and then you can be evidence-based in your conclusion and application of these repurposed medications. So when we look at the phytochemical profile of grapeseed extract, again, it comes from grape seeds. It's full of phenolic acids, flavonoids, stilbenes. So the phenolic acids, we're talking about gallic acid, caffeic acid, coumaric acid. This contributes to a lot of its pro-oxidative, anti-tumor effects. The flavonoids, catechins, quercetin, camphorol, apigenin. You may hear of these in the natural movement because they have anti-cancer properties, apigenin, quercetin, and camphorol alone. These are modulating the redox balance, thus promoting either pro-oxidative or anti-oxidation. And then stilbenes, resveratrol, again, wine, and its other derivatives. These are potent immunomodulatory. Modulating the immune system can be good, it can be bad. We want it to be anti-tumor, not pro-tumor. And that's where I'll stop here in just a second. People say that, well, inflammation's bad and immune stimulation's good. Well, immune stimulation can actually trigger stimulation of immunosuppressive cells and reducing immunosurveillance. That's bad. But at the same time, we can actually have inflammation that is anti-tumor rather than pro-tumor. So just when we say inflammation, just when we say immune stimulation, we're not equating to good or bad. It's in proper context. So what we have here is basically a fine-tuned machine that this combination in this study showing with grapeseed extract and vitamin C is showing. We have the combination of oxidative stress where we're increasing pro-oxidative lipid peroxidation, nitric oxide, and reduction in detoxification enzymes, superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione. Again, in cancer environments, we're getting modulation of the immune system where we're getting influx of tumor infiltration of anti-tumor cytotoxic immune cells to target the cancer. We have cytokine balance, so the immune signal. So we get immune infiltration of the Army and the Marines. And then we get a plan, we get signaling that tells them what to do, where to target, what to destroy. And that's the Th1 to Th2 balance, what it does. And this then reduces the proliferation, the Ki67, and it increases apoptosis, thus reducing tumor volume, reducing tumor burden, which further advances and enhances the immune activity. So in kind of summarizing the results here of particularly looking at the grapeseed extract and the L-ascorbic acid and comparing it to doxorubicin, tumor volume reduction in the combination, there was a 76.6% reduction compared to doxorubicin, 68.8% reduction. Again, tumor volume, tumor size. That's really good. Proliferation index, the combination grapeseed extract plus L-ascorbic acid, 43.8% reduction. Doxorubicin, comparatively, 30.2% reduction. Apoptosis being triggered by capsase-3, combination, 39.9% increase compared to doxorubicin, 37.2% increase. Increased cytotoxic CD8 T cell infiltration, combination arm, 34.9% increase compared to doxorubicin, 6.5% increase. So what you see here is that the chemotherapy actually had very little immune infiltration. So if we want to create sustained, durable systemic immune response, immune memory, chemotherapy doesn't provide it. And that's what other literature shows. It destroys the immune system, though it does shrink a primary tumor because it's directly cytotoxic. It damages the immune system and has very little immune memory. And again, that's 6.5% in doxorubicin compared to 34.9% in the grapeseed extract and ascorbic acid combination. Th1 cytokine shift was far superior in interleukin-12 and interferon gamma elevation compared to doxorubicin, and the toxicity profile, well, really minimal systemic toxicity in the mice model with the L-form ascorbic acid and grapeseed extract. But of course, when you look at doxorubicin, it's well known of its cardiotoxicity and its myelosuppression, immunosuppression. Most will hear this and go, awesome. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to drink vitamin C and I'm going to drink grapeseed extract and I'm going to kill cancer and I don't need chemotherapy. That's what happens. And I've actually seen this in patients where they'll talk about how they started, for example, some repurposed medications and their cancer grew. But when you dive deeper into it, you'll find out what they did is they started repurposed medications and they stopped their cancer treatment as a whole. Don't be surprised if your cancer does grow at that point. And that's what you typically see. So be very wary, be very careful about things that you hear online and social media. Always go deeper underneath the rock, if you will, to better understand, because I would say most of what people say online, if it's not evidence-based, if they're not providing studies to support it, there's probably some truth to it, but there's a lot of elaboration to that truth that may prove not truthful. So we want to translate this study finding to human application, of course. And in the mice model, they were using oral vitamin C, oral grapeseed extract. Now, that's not going to work in humans. The plasma concentrations of oral vitamin C will only achieve 70 to 220 micromolar by oral dose. Even applying a liposomal form will only probably take you to 200 to 300 micromolar. And you may go, well, what does that even mean? Well, what research has shown, if you want a anti-cancer mechanism, pro-oxidative effect of vitamin C in the blood, it begins at 1,000 micromolar. And again, oral vitamin C in humans is only going to achieve 200 to maybe 300 micromolar. So it can't do that. Now, that is because people go, well, why? It's an animal and we're animals, but why? We're different. There's this process in humans called two-compartment pharmacokinetics. By the way, humans, we don't make vitamin C. Mice do. So this two-compartment pharmacokinetics is that there's the first phase and the second phase. In the first phase, when the blood plasma ascorbic acid is less than 70 micromolars, the kidneys are not going to excrete the vitamin C and the gut is going to absorb it aggressively. But when it exceeds 70 micromolar, that is the vitamin C levels in the blood, here ascorbic acid, you enter the second phase of this two-compartment phase pharmacokinetics, whereby the kidneys start to excrete it and the gut starts to downregulate the absorption of vitamin C via the vitamin C sodium-dependent transporters. So the sodium vitamin C dependent transporters. So what we have here is the body's regulative capacity to control the balance of the vitamin C around 70 micromolars. Now you can push that to 200 to 300 micromolars depending on the dosages, the frequency, but that's going to be where it ends, and you'll never achieve that plasma baseline threshold of 1,000 micromolars. And again, it's limited by those transporters in the gut, primarily the sodium vitamin C dependent transporters. Insufficient for anti-cancer pro-oxidative cytotoxic effects. Now that micromolar, 1,000 micromolar, that's 1 millimolar. Where the real anti-cancer activity happens is between 20 and 40 millimolar, or 20 to 40,000 micromolar. And so the only way in humans to achieve that level of anti-cancer pro-oxidative effect of threshold 1,000 micromolar, 1 millimolar, or 20 to 40 millimolar or 20,000 to 40,000 micromolar is through IV high dose vitamin C delivery, that you bypass that 2-compartment phase pharmacokinetics of the gut. And this is where you achieve that therapeutic 10 to 40 millimolar. Now, in the mice here, they have different pharmacokinetics. Vitamin C is synthesized by mice. They synthesize vitamin C endogenously, again, unlike humans. So when you give 50 milligrams per kilogram oral vitamin D, as in this, you're going to get therapeutic pro-oxidative levels in the mice compared to humans where you will not get that. So we have different plasma, different tissue distribution kinetics, what's called pharmacokinetics. Back in medical school, I remember our pharmacology course, and I remember when we would walk down the aisle, we'd walk down the hallway, and there would be this slight little right turn, a small little hallway, and it was always dark. The lights didn't work really well there. And we go in there because on the wall of one of the doors, that's where they actually printed out our scores. We would have our student ID number, and then they would print out our scores related to the test. And, it was almost like, we were walking down our final walk, and it was just, it got darker and darker as we went down there, and you'd turn and you just take a big deep breath, a big gulp, and you'd walk up to that door and you'd just look and you'd see all, those identifying numbers, and then you'd see the scores. And the first thing I'd do is I'd look at the scores and I'd go, oh, wow, that looks really good. A lot of good scores. Or, oh my gosh, that looks really, really bad. And then you go and find your number, and then you go, and your heart would just be pounding, racing. And then you go, oh, that's not so bad. Or, oh, that's really bad. So that was the study of pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, how we give therapeutics. And this applies equally to natural substances as it does to chemical drugs, and allow them to be liberated, distributed, absorbed, metabolized, excreted, but to be effective. And so it applies there. And so at that time, it was like, I'm just trying to take a test. But now we employ more pharmacokinetics in what we do at the Williams Cancer Institute, and when we use natural therapeutics, than ever. So what we have here is different animals, different pharmacokinetic principles. One makes vitamin C, one doesn't. One can achieve therapeutic vitamin C levels by oral, one cannot. That's the human. So the oral dosing pharmacologic relevance in the rodent model here, in this Ehrlich carcinoma model in vivo, it doesn't apply to humans. What we have to do is extrapolate that out to humans. That is, the oral is no good. We must use the IV. So the study design here, the rationale was to investigate the immunomodulatory and microenvironment effects of the grapeseed extract and vitamin C combination, rather than just replicating the high-dose pharmacologic principles known about vitamin C in its pro-oxidative effect. And also, they were looking on the focus of the Th1 to Th2 balance and the immune system infiltration, immune modulation, rather than direct pro-oxidative cytotoxicity. Again, most of the vitamin C effects are going to be looking at that pro-oxidative anti-tumor activity. Here, they're just simply looking at, well, what's the modulation of the immune system? What's the balance of the immune environment? And what's the shift in the immune cytokine signaling? And they were looking at chronic 14-day dosing with the mice. And this is, again, with oral lavage with the vitamin C and the grape seed extract, and they were comparing it to those different arms. We must understand that this is context, this is environment dependent, and I've touched on this already, but I think it's worth repeating because this is missed on most. That question from that individual is evidence of that, and doctors are no different. Oncologists will think, well, when you give vitamin C, avoid vitamin C when you're getting radiation. Well, guess what? Research shows actually the vitamin C will augment the radiation. Why? Because it's pro-oxidative. What is radiation? It's pro-oxidative. So pro-oxidative plus pro-oxidative does not equate to antioxidative. Now, what that vitamin C is going to do in radiation, it's going to accelerate the pro-oxidative effect and the cancer-killing destruction, but it's going to protect the healthy cells simultaneously. That is the power, the impact of the different environments, different contexts, but same therapy at the same time. Again, cancer's working almost at a level that is of quantum physics, and we're going A plus B plus C, And cancer's going, you're never going to beat me that way. And so we have to start thinking bigger. We have to start thinking better. And honestly, the science and the research is all there. We just need to pull away the guards from our eyes. And rather than conformity of thought, engage critical thinking. Unfortunately, medical education is promoting and training conformity of thought. A little off topic here, but we need more critical thought than conformity of thought. We need more critical thinking than group thinking. So in normal cells, this grapeseed extract and vitamin C was antioxidative. It was protective. It maintained the cellular redox homeostasis. It protected the normal healthy cells against oxidative damage. Yet at the same time in the cancer cells, it was pro-oxidative. That's not my opinion. That's not my extrapolation. That's the study. And it depleted further what was already compromised, the detoxification enzymes of superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione. So in that individual, in that question, you can take definitely glutathione to help your healthy cells protect and heal and activate that immune system to advance that healing. But even if you have cancer, if you're in a pro-oxidative phase treatment, you definitely want to be careful with the glutathione, but you can definitely intermix those where you push pro-oxidative and then you relax and heal. You push pro-oxidative and you relax and heal. But in this mouse model, they're showing that you can do that simultaneously. My approach to this is in humans with individual is to monitor values. My dear friend, Dr. Nasha Winters, talks about the sedimentation rate, C-reactive protein, and LDH, that triad. And it tells us a lot about the inflammatory. If those C-reactive proteins and sed rate inflammatory markers and LDH are up, it may be time to pull back. It may be time to promote healing, reduce the inflammation, promote healing, and get ready to push pro-oxidatively. But if that C-reactive protein, sedimentation rate, and LDH are normal, guess what? Push into pro-oxidative. But no, that's also going to allow the protection of healthy cells. So you can do them at the same time. And then in cancer cells, it overwhelmed the detoxification system, which was already compromised, and triggered apoptosis, reducing proliferation, reducing tumor volume, and that's what it's all about. So the immunomodulatory mechanisms were T cell recruitment, both CD4 and CD8 T cells into infiltration into the tumor immune environment, actually enhancing immunosurveillance and increasing antigen recognition. That's important because that's how you activate the immune system against the tumor. Enhance antigen, tumor antigen recognition. Then those antigens get presented to the rest of the immune system, and that's how the immune system gets trained and activated. You get suppression of T-regulating cells, even myeloid-derived suppressing cells. This is reducing the immunosuppression, allowing the increase in immune infiltration and immunosurveillance. You have a shifting of the TH1 to TH2 balancing. You have a rebalancing where you get a shift to the interleukin 12, interferon gamma, promoting an anti-tumor immunity and a reduction in the TH2, such as interleukin 4 and interleukin 10 that they looked at in the study, reducing the immunosuppressant, thus reducing the pro-tumor immune. And we actually have an innate immunity infiltration. You have a shifting of the what's called macrophage polarization from an M2, which is pro-tumor, to M1, which is anti-tumor, thus increasing the phagocytosis, the compatibility, and the presentation with major histocompatibility complex type 1, showing that, and these antigens to the immune system, and then the immune system takes off, becomes trained, the power is harnessed, and then it targets the tumor, and then it transfers that systemically. So when we look at the IV versus oral vitamin C in particular, in this, we have to understand the IV administration remains essential, in fact, critical to the use of vitamin C in humans if you want to achieve the millimolar pro-oxidative cytotoxic levels for cancer. Now, we can't treat everybody the same. Everybody says they don't want protocols when they go to their oncologist. But if you go to an integrative doctor that is specializing in cancer, and they give a 5'2", 120-pound patient 50 grams vitamin C, and they give that same dose to somebody that's 6'6", 322 pounds, you're doing the same thing. You're following protocol. We must be precise, the right treatment for the right patient, the right combination at the right time. And so the dosing of that vitamin C is going to be different. There are many variables that come into what changes the vitamin C level, the tumor burden, the body size, the inflammation, the transport, the receptors. All of these play a role in the dosing needed. And that's why you have to follow. By the way, capillary glucose levels do not quantitatively correlate with vitamin C exactly. They'll just simply show you vitamin C is up. I can tell you that when you give vitamin C, it's up. But what that capillary glucose level does not equate to what that quantitative plasma ascorbic acid level is. Are you at 10,000 micromolar? Are you at 20,000 micromolar? That does not equate to whether that capillary glucose after vitamin C is 220. It doesn't. It just, the vitamin C levels are up. But I could have told you without doing that. The oral vitamin C alone in humans cannot reach the cytotoxic effects like it can in the mice model here. And that's because of the absorption two-phase compartment pharmacokinetics that I described. Now, what it also showed is that the oral vitamin C here, as other studies have shown, it can have some positive effects. Now, in the mice model, it had tremendous anti-cancer effects. But in humans, what research has shown is it enhances T cell function. It can modulate the cytokines because much of the immune system signaling and the balance originates out of the gut. And guess what? When you take oral vitamin C, most of it is going to be confined to the gut. The metabolites of the gut, the supportive gut microbiome is going to be altered because of that. And again, the gut absorption with those sodium-dependent vitamin C transporters is going to affect the absorption of that vitamin C. It's going to support the immune cell redox balance in that gut, and that's going to be transferred systemically. And as I mentioned, it supports the gut microbiome. It elevates bifidobacterium species, which elevates immune system activity. Now, that's a little bit of a loose connection, but what research has shown is that depleted bifidobacterium is found in those with cancer. But giving vitamin C, you actually increase bifidobacterium, that translates to a better immune system activity. The combination, again, here of grapeseed extract and vitamin C, it outperformed that of the doxorubicin. So, where we are right now in the arena of application here is really exciting because we can use vitamin C. Now we have to figure out how to use the grapeseed extract. But I think we have to be very careful here because what happens is when we're dealing with advanced cancer, stage 4 cancer, and by the way, the cancer of today, it's not the cancer of yesterday. It's not your grandparents' cancer. It has changed. And yes, the pandemic has something to do with that. Yes, the spike proteins, very, very real, has something to do with that. T cell exhaustion, activation of neutrophil extracellular traps, reactivation of oncogenic viruses, and many other mechanisms. I've been talking about this since 2021. I'm happy to see many others coming on board. We need better understanding of the precise molecular mechanism of this combination and how to best dose this. What's the best ratio? Is it 1-to-1? Is it 4-to-1? Is it 1-to-4? What's the best ratio? What's the best way to dose this? I can tell you from an ascorbic acid level from an IV, the bare minimum is 2. And typically when you look at the absorptive capacity and the half-life in cancer cells versus non-cancer cells, it's about 3 times a week. So a Monday, Wednesday, Friday effect. Are these therapies best used alone, or as are most therapeutics, best used in combination? Stacking. Understand stacking applies to everything. It's not just stacking natural therapies or integrative therapies with conventional. Conventional therapies are stacked. The goal here is to provide effective therapy safely. And so if we're able to provide something like grapeseed extract and vitamin C and reduce the dose of chemotherapeutic, but yet increase efficacy, that's a win for everybody. It's not about who gets credit. It's that the patient gets well. And if we can do that more in a safer way, if we can actually increase efficacy by improving safety, that's a must. And to not do so, to use that word, that's substandard of care. We do need clinical studies to take this concept of the mouse model, translate that to humans to properly dose, ratio, frequency, and what's the best combination. Now, do all cancer types respond well here? Probably not. Do a lot? Probably so. Does the dose differ between those? Probably. These are things that we need to work out, but we know how to dose vitamin C. We know how to dose doxorubicin. We can dose it low dose. We can do low dose metronomic chemo. We can combine it with insulin potentiation. We can add vitamin C in a way that augments it. We can do that right now. How does grapeseed extract fit into that model? Well, that's one thing I think we need to work on a little bit. So the key conclusions here: superior efficacy of grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid in combination of tumor volume reduction, 76.6% versus 68.8% with the red devil doxorubicin chemotherapy in this in vivo mouse model. Oxidative stress reduction, increase in lipid peroxidation, increased nitric oxide, indicating immune anti-cancer cytotoxic activity. This is all pro-oxidation, and a reduction in glutathione, reduction in superoxide dismutase, reduction in catalase in the cancer cells, not the healthy cells. So that's okay. This then leads to basically destruction of the cancer cell through an increase in capsase 3, triggering apoptosis. And in that, we have a reduction in proliferation. We have a reduction in the Ki-67, as I reviewed recently or previously. And we also have a near complete elimination of viable tumor cells with massive tumor necrosis. All of this is going to activate the immune system because the immune system is infiltrated as well. You get increased infiltration of CD4 cells, increased infiltration of CD8 cells, reduction in immunosuppressive T regulating cells, signaling that activates those immune cells. So now we've got antigens. Now we've got immune infiltration. Now we've got immune activation. Now we have immune targeting of the tumor locally. And then the great thing about that is it sends out immune memory cells to go out and look for cells just like that. That is the abscopal effect. What's the pharmacological relevance here? Can you take oral grapeseed extract and vitamin C and do the same thing in humans if you have cancer? No, you cannot. You must find a knowledgeable doctor that uses the IV vitamin C, the grapeseed extract. That's still yet to be determined, but the vitamin C can be used in combination with chemotherapy to be highly effective. I do believe this has significant clinical potential. We just have to approach this the right way to provide patients the best opportunity for an increase, highly effective therapy, and a reduction in toxicity. So when we look at this in the bottom line, from an immunopharmacological perspective, because pharmacologics not just applying to pharmacy, we're talking about pharmacologic principles, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. The grapeseed extract and L-ascorbic acid combination demonstrated significant anti-cancer activity through a multifaceted, multi-component, immune-centric mechanism. When you look at chemotherapy full dose, it does one thing: destroys rapidly dividing cells. That's why it harms the immune system. Rapidly dividing cells are not just confined to tumors. You have healthy cells that are rapidly dividing. But when you introduce these natural integrative therapies, the beauty of them, again, the different environments, different effects, but the impacts, the mechanisms of action are multifaceted, and they happen simultaneously. So it's almost like cancer is working on a quantum physics level. Conventional oncology is working on a sequential 1 + 2 + 3. But yet these natural therapies designed by the creator, they work at a quantum physics level. They work alone. They work best stacked with other therapy, whether that's natural, whether that's other integrative, or whether that's conventional, because then it allows you to reduce the conventional dose. So I hope this has been helpful extrapolating out a very exciting study, mouse model, but highlighting and teasing out some of the things that we need to be aware of, limitation-wise, in terms of application. Use oral vitamin C to help your gut microbiome, help your gut metabolites like butyrate, to help your immune system, to heal the leaky gut, but to truly provide the anti-cancer effect that exceeds that of the doxorubicin, as this study showed, you can only give that IV vitamin C. Yet to determine how to give the grapeseed extract oral IV, but hopefully in the future we'll have studies that show that. Over 70% of the patients that listen to this podcast or watch the video on YouTube don't subscribe to this podcast prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear or prescribe to our YouTube channel. We really need your help, because despite RFK doing amazing work as Secretary for Health and Human Services, there's still massive censorship ongoing. And that's why I highlight the metabolic regen and the repurposed medication course that I dropped, because Google didn't like that. And it got censored because I said ivermectin. Now, it's not a 4-letter word, it's a 4-syllable word, ivermectin. But we need your help. And the way we get your help is you subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There you'll get hot takes, you'll get behind the scenes, other information. Got exciting upcoming fall schedule of conferences where I'll be speaking and doing podcasts and behind the scenes. So sign up, share. That's the way this movement grows. That's the way we support a change in medicine, one that returns the focus back to patients where it should be. I'm Dr. Nathan Goodyear, and this is the Prescribed by Dr. Nathan Goodyear podcast, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Prescribed podcast. All references supporting this episode can be found on the prescribed.com website. That's pre-scribe.com. To get your next dose of medical innovation, make sure you subscribe to Prescribe. We'll see you for your next refill.